Jim, and all of my friends at Ripon. It's good to be back here. Good to see so many friends, and great to be here with my colleague, Julia Letlow. We're incredibly proud of her addition to our delegation, but especially what she's meant to our conference, as Jim mentioned. Not an easy task as a freshman in a special election to get on the appropriations committee. So clearly she's impressed. So many in our conference is going to do great things. And to see my former chairman, still call him chairman, Greg Walden, we served together on the Energy and Commerce Committee. I came on as a freshman and he would haze me as a new guy. I'd get him his coffee, put a lot of neat ingredients in it for him along the way. And then he reminded me later when he was chairman. But we did great things working together across the aisle on really big things in the Energy and Commerce Committee. And ENC's always had a history of getting things done, big things done, Republican or Democrat administrations, 21st Century Cures Act being one of those really, I think, groundbreaking, earth-shattering kind of pieces of legislation that doesn't get the attention it deserves because it was bipartisan. People only want to talk about the things that happen up here that are the big food fights. And geez, Republicans and Democrats are at odds, and can they ever work together? And then we work together, and it doesn't get any coverage because it's just not a sexy story. But ultimately will save millions of lives, and frankly already has. If you look at what President Trump was able to put in place with Operation Warp Speed to come up with not one, two, but three proven and effective vaccines for COVID in less than a year. That had never happened in the history of the world. But the foundation of that was laid with 21st Century Cures by making real reforms to the FDA and saying, we're going to put a focus and money, reprioritize, not deficit spending. I know these days people don't know what that means to say, let's take existing dollars and put them in better places, not new dollars that add to the deficit. But $2 billion moved from other places to a higher priority into making sure we can put a focus on curing major diseases, and it's already yielding results. That happened under Greg's leadership, and I enjoyed working with him. And look forward to Kathy McMorris-Rodgers being the new chair of the Energy and Commerce Committee. And let me talk about what we need to do to get there, because clearly there is an election coming up on November 8th. In case you didn't know, mark your calendar. I think a lot of people will be voting. And there's a lot of energy. I get to go around the country. I get to go to a lot of swing districts. So you really get to see what's happening. You know, a great district like mine, the first district of Southeast Louisiana, best food. You know, you want to get charbroiled oysters. You want to go to great restaurants here. You know, go to Jazz Festival and hear great music and just wonderful people. And oh, by the way, we produce a whole lot of energy for the country. We could be producing a whole lot more energy for the country to lower gas prices if we had better policies. We'll be talking surely about that between now and November 8th. But when you go around to these swing districts, and these are the districts that are the 50-50 districts, there's fewer of them. But let's say today we've got about 40 to 60 of them. We still have some primaries working through, so you don't really know what the matchups are till maybe late August. But by the end of August, you're going to see what the playing field is. And I think it's going to be at least 50 seats that right now are held by Democrats that are in that 50-50 zone that have a chance to flip. And frankly, when you go to a lot of these places, you see what people care about in an area where there are more swing voters than maybe traditional districts. And what I see, it's a common theme. You know, you see it in the polling. You know, you just saw it a few days ago, 9.1% inflation, record highs, 40-year high inflation. And what that means for families, you know, the numbers aren't as important to them as what they have to do when they go to the grocery store. And if they're trying to buy some of the ingredients at the breakfast table, they're paying double-digit higher costs for all of that when they're going to the gas station to fill up their car. More than double what they were paying 2 years ago. And it gets people angry, and it should get people angry because this isn't the 70s, you know, and maybe Jimmy Carter's the happiest president in the world because he's looking at Biden going, I love this guy because I no longer look like, you know, a president that had such bad performance in the 70s. But in the 70s, things were different in terms of technology. America didn't know how to tap into our vast resources. We didn't even know we had all the resources. We were building LNG import facilities in the 90s because we thought we had no natural gas. We thought we were running out of oil in the United States. And then guess what happened? American innovation, American technology came along and said, we're going to figure out better ways to do this, and found oil and natural gas in places we didn't even know we had it. So much so that we retrofitted a lot of those LNG facilities to make them export facilities. And now we're exporting to our friends around the world. In fact, there's at least 5 permits that have been sitting on the Biden administration's desk for almost 2 years now to build more LNG export facilities to help more of our friends around the world so they don't have to get their energy from Putin and all these other dictators. They can actually get it from us. It helps our economy, by the way. I thought that used to be a good thing, where companies could actually make money, hire people, pay them higher wages, and lower energy costs for families here in America. All of those are good things for most people. But up here, you've got people running Washington that really, and have said it publicly, they want higher gas prices. They want higher energy costs. They want people to just stop using fossil fuels. And whatever your thoughts are about all of that, it's not reality with how people live their lives today. Anybody who's honest with you will tell you, even if they believe in the Green New Deal, we're going to have decades more where we still need fossil fuels to run an industrialized economy. If we want to shut down manufacturing in America, that's a debate I'd be happy to engage in. I would argue how good of a thing it is for us to make more things in America, because you know what? For all these people that love to beat up on America and talk about how man's destroying the earth, and if we shut everything down in America, it's going to be better. Well, if we shut everything down in America, and we're seeing things get shut down in America because of that crazy mentality, somebody else is going to make the stuff we use. We still live our lives. Countries all around the world have grown accustomed to a higher lifestyle, and they're not going to reverse course. So that means you have to get it from other places. And where are those other places you get it from? You're going to have to go to China, India. You're going to have to go all around the world to places where they don't have the standards we have, where they actually emit more carbon to make the same stuff. Oil, we'll start with that. Oil is made all around the world. Not every country has it. In fact, the only free market country that has an abundance of oil and natural gas is the United States of America. There are a lot of other countries that have an abundance of those resources, but none of them are free market countries. A lot of them are dictatorships or cartels, OPEC. For example, Joe Biden is actually flying Air Force One, if you saw it, over to the Middle East, and he's going to go to Saudi Arabia to beg them to produce more oil. So think about this, all under the guise of saving the planet, the Green New Deal. Again, if you believe in all of that stuff, let's talk science, because the science really ought to matter. So how did he get to Saudi Arabia? He didn't take a boat. John Kerry never takes a sailboat to go to Iceland to get his global warming awards. He flies private jet. They actually fly commercial from Boston to Iceland. We showed that to John Kerry when it turned out he went to get an award on saving the planet, and he flew private to tell people not to use fossil fuels. Well, it's jet fuel that they use to get there. There are no solar panels on Air Force One. We have checked, double checked. They haven't even figured out the technology to do that and make the thing work, and so they need jet fuel. And so he flies 5,700 miles to Saudi Arabia. Now, has anybody in the press asked what the carbon footprint of that is? Because we hear about the carbon footprint of everything, a lot of your businesses. What's your carbon footprint? Are you reducing carbon emissions? We were reducing carbon emissions when we became energy independent, when we had gasoline below $2 a gallon. And it wasn't that long ago. You don't need to go to history books. We were all around just 2 years ago. And while we were living better lifestyles, we had more money in our pocket, we were able to make more things in America, creating more jobs with higher wages for low and middle income people, which is not the case today. While we were doing all of that, we were reducing carbon emissions. And so you shut that down. Biden came in day one. He bragged about this as a candidate, by the way. This isn't accidental. This isn't Putin's fault. This isn't the oil and gas company's fault. They're blaming everybody. It was COVID at one point they blamed. If it was anybody's fault, why are they blaming somebody different every week, first of all? If it's Putin's fault, it was Putin's fault 6 months ago. It's Putin's fault today. It's not. Nobody believes that because it's not the case. Biden said, I'm going to end fossil fuels. I'm going to stop drilling in America. His executives talked about how they're going to bankrupt the oil and gas companies, how they're going to make it hard for them to drill, and they did it. Okay, and when you do that, there are consequences. Now, if you want to own the consequences and you really believe in this stuff, then go and embrace it. But the consequences are that if you can't drill in America, the only places left to drill are places that want $100 to $120 a barrel gasoline. And that means you pay $4 to $5 a gallon at the pump. And it really, really gets people angry. And when they get angry and you did it, you ought to at least go and defend your position instead of trying to blame everybody else and demagogue the issue. Or you could work with us to fix it. And they won't do that. And so we're going to keep pointing out exactly what's going on. And believe me, the country gets it. When you go to Bangor, Maine, where I was 2 weeks ago, or when you go to Scranton, Pennsylvania, where Harrison and I were just on Monday. Y'all remember Scranton, right? Scranton Joe Biden's hometown. His popularities are in 35% in his hometown. He won't even go campaign for the Democrat incumbent, not because he doesn't want to, because the Democrat incumbent doesn't want him to, because people don't like the policies. It's hurting low-income families. All of these policies have an actual impact on people, and people are seeing it. People don't like it. And I mean, look at the poll that came out 2 days ago. 64% of Democrats say they don't want Joe Biden to be their nominee. I'd like him to be the nominee in 2024, but they don't, because they don't like the direction of the country. And so we could just sit back and say, okay, look, we're not them. Look at what they're doing. All we need to win is 4 seats. You know, geez, we could probably pull that off just hiding in a basement. I don't know if anybody's ever tried that strategy in a campaign. Might work, but that's not what we're going to do. You know, Julia, myself, all of my colleagues, we've been working for months now, putting together task force, sitting down in rooms and saying, can we come up with better policies to fix these problems? And we can, and we have, and we're going to roll this out this summer called the Commitment to America. You remember the contract with America talked about very specific things to deal with the problems of the time in 1994. There are different problems today in 2022, but the problems are very serious and the solutions are very straightforward. These are all things we're going to be rolling out. How can you get inflation under control? How can you get the economy working again? How can you lower gas prices with smart policies that protect our environment, the great stewards of conservation that we are, that Teddy Roosevelt was, and also make more things in America? Respect the fact that no one does it better than America. Don't go begging dictators across the world, flying 11,000 miles to go ask somebody else to make our energy when we can make it here smarter, cleaner, better, and it helps our economy. It lowers gas prices for our families. We're going to roll that out. Shouldn't parents be in charge of their kids' education? That became a really big issue during COVID. Something I've championed for a long time back when Katrina hit, and we were able, as a state legislature, we worked to reverse the most failed, corrupt public school system in America, in the city of New Orleans, where kids were graduating from high school as the valedictorian and couldn't even pass the state exit exam because the system was so corrupt. And we created a charter school system. Republicans and Democrats, in fact, it was a Democrat governor who signed the bill to end collective bargaining so you could hire and fire teachers based on merit. You could pay them more based on merit. And it worked incredibly well, so much so that it's a model for the nation for fixing failed urban systems across the country. More parents today care about school choice than ever before because they saw what happened. When union bosses said we want to shut schools down, they manipulated the science under the Biden administration to keep schools shut when the science said every kid should be in the classroom. And millions of kids will never make up that time. And parents had no choice in a lot of communities across the country. Shouldn't they have that choice? If your school system wants to take the money and not educate your kids, shouldn't you be able to take that money somewhere else to a place where they want to educate your kid? That's going to be a powerful issue we're going to talk about. Border security. Everybody sees what's happening. You know, the president put the vice president in charge of it, and she won't even go down there and see it because she doesn't want to acknowledge how bad the problem is, but everybody in America knows how bad it is. It's not just the 3+ million people that have come across our border illegally. It's the fact that this president has turned our border over to drug cartels. Everybody, I'm sure, in this room knows somebody who's died from fentanyl overdoses. It happens every day. It's happening in every community, in every part of the country. So everywhere in America is now a border town because the drugs that are coming over, China's making the fentanyl, but they're all coming over through the open southern border. Last year alone, over 100,000 young people died from drug overdoses, mostly fentanyl. And it never should have happened if we didn't have an open southern border and we had a closed border. Again, we're going to roll out this agenda to show the country how we can control our southern border. Myra Flores just won a seat in Texas that borders Mexico that hasn't gone Republican since 1871. That doesn't happen by accident. You know, let the Democrats just hold their head in the sand and go, oh, don't worry, maybe the road decision will get things changed for us, or maybe January 6th will change people's minds. People are angry about what's happening and the fact that they will not work with us to fix any of these problems, and they're all fixable problems. But Myra Flores talked about it. She talked about securing the border in an 85% Hispanic district, and she went community to community talking about this message. And there were people that told her, I've never had a Republican ask for my vote before, but I'm going to vote for you because you share my values. You're talking about things that matter to my family. She's married to a Border Patrol agent, and she's working to help be a part of the solution. You're going to see a lot more great candidates like that. You're going to see a lot sharper focus on how you can fix these problems. People understand what the problems are. You don't have to sell them on the idea that the country's on the wrong track. They already know it. What they're looking for, and I think what people are hungrier for than ever, are really sound, solid, honest ideas about how to fix these problems. That's what we're going to be talking about between now and November 8th. And then if we get this majority, we're going to then go carry that out in a Republican House starting in January and go pass those bills, have this national debate, bring bills over to the Senate, put pressure from all around the country on the Senate to take these up, put pressure on the president to have to answer to what he would do when we have a bill that will lower gas prices. Would he sign it or veto it? I think the country's ready for this debate. I think they've been ready for it for a long time, and we can't wait to have this. I wish the election was tomorrow. It's not, but it's going to feel like tomorrow because November 8th is going to get here quickly. I think you're going to see a lot of people interested in what we're going to be talking about between now and then what we'll do with it after we get it. So thanks for having me come back to the Ripon Society. Really appreciate what y'all do. Maybe we can have some times for Q&A.
Thank you.